Comfy?
Very comfy.
Hello again. So, a while ago, we promised we were going to do a Q&A, and then we never did. Whoops. But we're doing it now. We have just been doing lots of other amazing stuff, and actually, we're just waiting for the right time. But that is now. I have a laptop with some questions. I'm going to be quizmaster. Alex is going to answer them all.
Wow.
No, he's not. We'll share answers unless they're particularly hard, and then I will stay quiet. So let's just go. First question. What ideas, if any, did you guys have prior to picking a point-and-click adventure for Röki?
Well, I think the genre was always the thing we settled on first, and then explored what the game and the setting would be. I think when we've talked previously about creative limitations, and that was one of the things when in looking at taking certain variables off the table. That was like the first thing that we knew we wanted to make a point-and-click adventure. It was something, a genre we both had really fond memories of it when we were growing up, and there's been a resurgence, sort of enjoyed playing the newer titles in the area. So that was there early. That was like the first thing. And after that we had like 4 or 5 different game ideas within that space. There was some quite neat ones that I really, there's some, I think we both really liked them, and we're not going to say what they are, because we may choose to do them later on.
Cop out, come on.
Yeah, they were amazing though, really amazing.
I had one that was, I don't think we'll do, that was like was it on a train? It was like a story on a train. I think it was almost a bit like, I think I'd probably just watch some Wes Anderson stuff or something, and like the idea of contained environment and the story unravelling within that. I quite like trains. In fact, he has done a film, I think, that's an advert on a train. Yeah. So anyway, I thought there was something there with like the characters being contained and going from carriage to solve something. But ultimately, I think we felt it was a bit too restrictive and not very epic.
So there was lots of merit here. We just have to bleep this entire section now, because we might want to do it again. No, that's fine.
Hey, if someone else makes it in the meantime, so be it. It was nice to have those 3 or 4 ideas, and there were definitely merits and stuff that we felt was exciting about each of them. But then it was the stumbling upon the Scandinavian folklore, which then really, to be honest, it just knocked everything else on the head. It was something we both immediately got quite excited about, and then that was it. There wasn't really much even discussion after that. And it's really interesting. It's like a similar thing with when we come up with the studio name, right? So basically, we had like this list of names. Picking a studio name was like, it was very testing time. You got loads and loads of different bits. Sorry, what were you going to say? I was going to say, it's a problem, I can't get worded. I would have thought it would be coming up with something cool that was the problem. Actually, that wasn't the problem. It was coming up with something cool that then somebody didn't already have, that was like available as a Twitter handle or a website or something as well, so that we weren't kind of spreading ourselves or having to do a really weird version of the name or something. That was like the trouble, wasn't it?
Well, it's like a lot of stuff is taken. There's a lot of people thinking about making names for studios.
Selfish.
Very selfish. But I think we had like an afternoon long session of, we'd been pinging emails back and forth to each other for ages, just like huge lists, exhaustive lists of like anything that would come into our head. But then actually, as soon as we got it, and there was 2 elements we put together, it was like, that's it, we've got it. And I think that was part of like just utter relief of not having to try and come up with any more names. But actually, it's definitely stood the test of time. I think it's a really good fit for us and our studio. And back to the actual question.
Yeah, I was going to say.
It was the same with the Scandinavian folklore element of which then gestated into Röki.
Come on though, you can't talk about names and not talk about where Röki came from and the fun that happened with naming the game. That's far more interesting.
Yeah, so
originally we had, there was the kind of a name of a. We had lots of different names for the game is named after the monster, if you don't already know. So at the end of the announce tray, you'll see this shadowy dark monster appear. He's been described as lots of different things. Things like evil Totoro was my favourite. But the game is named after him, the monster. And we had loads of different names for the monster, but we wanted something that was short, that sparked people's imaginations, that felt in some ways familiar, in some ways strange. And that's like naming a game is really hard. But we had like a short list, and we had one that we like settled on. It was like that's it, that's the one. And again, having to whittle it down, that was quite a relief for us. But we spoke to one of our friends, Kjetil, and his wife, who's an author, they're from Norway. And basically, we said, we just want to check that our game, because we're not native speakers, so we wanted to check.
Surprisingly,
it didn't have connotations that we weren't expecting, and not only was it, I think it was a character from it's like Fraggles or Muppets or something in that country. It also translated to sound essentially like crappy, like a pile of crap.
Pile of crappy.
And like maybe like a slightly cute thing. So that was quite like, oh, that's really bad. But B, thank goodness we did the due diligence and checked. And then actually that
would have been an amazing thing to find out now.
That would have been.
Our game. By the way, guys, we've called your game crappy. I don't know if you know this.
But it is really hard to name the game. And actually, Röki, the end of it is so the first part was at the end of Ragnarok, connotations of darkness and shadows. So that was something we felt that actually was a really good fit. But still, like the first video that always.
What do you mean because of Loki?
Because the nature of it's the name of the monster, who's very like dark and shadowy. And I think in like Ragnarok, it could be really wide of the mark, but that part of the word is like almost the darkness and the shadow that falls across the Asgard and the Age of Gods and all that kind of business. So that was pretty good.
I'm going to move you on now.
Oh, thanks.
Yeah. Quizmaster, I get to do what I want. Is it just you and Tom that are the team for Polygon Treehouse, or is there more behind the scenes? I swear someone jumps up from what? No, sadly not.
Yeah, so we are the founders of the studio and its entire workforce. We are getting more people involved. I think in the new year we'll be having more people involved on the game with the studio. We're two men of reasonable talents, but composing music is not one of mine. Unless you've been holding back, I suspect. I suspect it's not one of yours.
Guitar.
Oh, not a guitar. Oh, look forward to that synth soundtrack from Tom.
Sadly not.
But it has been. I think that's been one of the nice things. We have been hand-on in creating everything ourselves. So that's meant we've been able to move quite swiftly, and obviously, we're not spending loads of money. Well, it's just us creating stuff. But I think for the music side of things, that's going to be a really big part of the game. So it's we've started to explore different composers to work with, and I think in the new year, like writers and potentially other people to come on to help some of the different aspects of the game will be good. I think it's been really important for us to stay as just a duo to start off with, just to really solidify what it is. I think there's always a danger of even like expanding by a couple of people or adding a few extra people into the mix. I think you have to do it when you're ready. I think it would have been a mistake to do it before next year. So
we certainly didn't want to get into a situation where we were spending a lot of our time managing other people or having to come up with work for other people, because now we can work quite fluidly. At least we can get a benchmark of what we want that then we can use as a springboard for actually getting some other people involved, like you say, in the early next year.
Yeah.
Next question.
How has leaving such a big company as Sony and Guerrilla affected the way you make a game now? Does it make it easier that you only have yourselves to answer to?
So, well, I guess in the way that working so long at Sony and later on at Guerrilla affected the way we make games, there's a lot of stuff we've learnt, and we're very thankful to have learnt from our time at Sony and Guerrilla. I think there's definitely lots of practices and working methods and ways of working, and certain pragmatism that we've taken from that in making sure we're working in quite a targeted way.
Like fail fast, don't be precious, some other stuff.
Snooze you lose. No, but I think there's definitely been some quite, and sometimes you won't even realise you've taken that stuff through because it's just the natural way that you work. As regards to the second part of the question, does it make it easier that being a smaller group? I think any creative conversation with less people is some ways a quicker conversation to have, and sometimes that might not necessarily be a good thing. But I think we met at university before we both started at Sony, so we've known each other for like 20 years now. So actually, when we were at Sony, we didn't work together that closely until maybe a bit later on. But we definitely have a good creative understanding, and so now it's just the two of us. The fact we have this good understanding and there's two of us, we've been able to just blast through a lot of stuff, and some of it we've had to question how quick some of those decisions have been, because obviously you don't want to be rushing into anything. And so like when we were looking at the plot and evolving that, we'd spent like just a couple of days really bashing out the broad brushstrokes. And I remember we'd let it sit for a little while and we'd come back and looked at it again, and we were both pretty happy with the core of what was there, and but we did have to question ourselves because it felt like that was alarmingly quick.
Too quick.
And so I think having some awareness and letting stuff sit for a little while when there's just the two of you is handy to make sure that because that can feel quite rapid, that you're not kind of just you're just powering through things and missing some big items. But yeah, definitely we're very live and quick and agile in moving things on creatively, just the two of us. But yeah, I think at large studios those conversations, those decisions can still be made pretty quickly, but it's more I guess we have less people to consider now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it also is, in terms of where we're at in the project, it's useful to be lean, so to speak. I mean, you tend to do that in production anyway. When you're starting a game, you don't want a large team because it becomes unwieldy and you can't find work for everyone, or there's too many ideas to try and bring together. So that actually fits quite nicely with where we're at now. I think later on, towards the kind of back end of the project, actually, that might be when we start to miss that support structure a bit more, and having other people there to either help out with the marketing side of things or help out with production, or, as I say, just having a larger support network with experience. But hey, we'll be fine. See? We'll see. We'll do another Q&A then and see how it's gone. Yeah, okay, let's move on. Are you guys aiming to release on console, and if you do, will you plan for a digital only or aim for digital and physical? Ooh.
Well, I think we're not ruling any options out, I think is the best way to
politicians answer.
Yeah. The best way to answer that
Say your point. If you're
answer
a politician,
answer that question.
Crazy.
I think a physical, a boxed edition of the game, I think it was always be like that's like really cool. You can hold it in your hands. I think digital stuff is really great, but to be honest, I think we'll be extra excited if we get to a physical release of the game. I think that's probably a little ways down the line. And yeah, like we're open and exploring options, which I think is the right thing to do for us. Just not ruling anything out.
No. No, I think we would definitely like to be on console. It's kind of where our background is. I think the game would look great on console. So, yeah, I guess watch this space. Unfortunately, it's not all down to us. If it were, we could answer these things much more directly. Okay, next question. It's a good one for Alex. Do you have any plans to release the game on DRM-free platforms like GOG, Itch, or Humble Bundle? What are your plans, Alex?
Well, I've got lots of plans. So I think a similar answer really. Like we're our main focus is making the game, and I think we're open to what platforms we're going to make it available on, which we'll nail that stuff down when we're a little bit further down the line. But we're not ruling anything out really.
I think the difficulty is there's so many options and they're not all kind of mutually exclusive. So actually, maybe pursuing one particular option precludes doing some of the other ones. So we haven't gone far enough down those paths yet to give an answer really. But certainly, like Alice says, we're not against any of that stuff. And I think all the DRM free platforms are really cool, obviously very popular. So yeah, I think we'll just have to see in all honesty. And there's certainly a learning curve we need to go through with that side of things as well.
And the next question,
What's this? Hijack?
Yeah, you can feel one. I mean, what will be the price of the game about?
So, I thought you were going to ask and answer it then.
I'm going to. That's exactly what I'm going to do.
Fine.
So we're not going to be a full price release. I think that's safe. The price will be. I think we're aiming for a playthrough time.
4 to 6 hours.
4 to 6 hours. I think the game will be priced accordingly. Yeah.
Yeah. Be the lower end kind of indie market, but it obviously will depend on the playthrough.
Okay. Any plans? This kind of follows on. Any plans to do a crowdfunding, Kickstarter, and the like? It was something we talked about early on, and again, not something we've ruled out, but it's not something we're actually. It kind of faded away from our plans a little bit.
I think it's difficult with Kickstarter because I think it's kind of had its zenith and it's not quite as successful now because there's it's a bit of a fad and that's gone. I think you can still do really well out of it. Interestingly, I think some of the stuff we've heard is that people have done it almost more for the community aspect and as a marketing device. But I'm still not so sure.
It's like a byproduct of like building awareness of the game.
Rather than explicitly just for money. But we're not ruling it out. I think we're also wary of the time investment involved in that side of things as well. That's
been made very, very clear to us, the amount of... That's like a full-time job if you do want, and if you want to do it well, then that's a full-time job. But not super high up our list at the moment, but who knows for the new year.
Okay, let's crack on because we've got to go to lunch in a minute. Will it be fully voice acted by Alex? No. Will it be fully voice acted?
Currently the game isn't, the vertical slice has like a little ticker sound when people speak, which is quite nice and charming, quite old school. We've been asked this question a few times, and it's something we're looking at. We're going to do some tests and try it out and see how it fits for the game and how it feels. I think we're both wary of, I think it's something we'd have to do and get really right and get some really great performances. We're both wary about what it does to the game. Does it slow things down? People want to interrupt text all the time. There's nice aspects to having voice acting if you get some really strong performances. So that's really great. Definitely brings something. There's also something nice about not having it because people can move at their own pace, and also people project a bit more onto the game. So we're not decided yet, but we are exploring that option and doing some tests. So we shall see.
Yeah, hopefully in the next couple of weeks we should actually have some audio in the game that we can get a feel for what it does. I think one of the attractive things is the story is quite emotive, so I think there is some depth there that could be explored with some voice acting and actually taken up a notch. But like Alex says, for all those reasons and from a production point of view and a cost point of view, these are all the fun things you have to think about when you're making a game by yourselves.
Yay!
Business hats, that's what it is.
So I think we'll go to the last question now.
I've already decided. What is in Röki apart from walking?
Nothing.
Skipping, jumping. No.
I think a lot of the stuff when we're sharing stuff tends to be like the characters walking through scenes. And we got asked this question just to kind of clarify after someone saw our announce trailer, which is just perfectly valid and fair question. So there are elements of exploring the wilderness and walking around. There's more, characters you're meeting, collecting items, solving item-based puzzles.
You're on a quest, right? I mean, fundamentally, you're on a quest to save your family. If there's an inciting incident, and then it's up to you to bring your family back together. So that is your motivation, and to do that, you have to do various things which revolve around puzzles, not walking.
Yeah, and so part of that will be like certain areas of the environment may be locked off. You have to work out how to get somewhere. So there's a certain element of exploration and traversal, so that the whole world not just open for you to mill around to start off with. But we're trying to get that balance right, because we want, again, to get that sense of being alone in the wilderness, to get the contrast and the balance right of the kind of the pockets of gameplay and how they sit and feel with just some of the roaming around and traversing the environment. So and that balance is going to be really important for us to get right. But it's not a walking simulator. There's going to be lots of stuff to do, people to talk to, problems to solve, and monsters to battle as well.
Game, isn't it?
Exactly. Okay, well that's a wrap for the Q&A. We're open to doing more of these. We're also open to not doing more of them. So whatever you want, really. If you've got some more questions, just fire them our way. If you liked it, great. Hopefully it provided a bit of insight.
I want to do one with all my own questions next time.
That'll be really worthwhile, Tom.
There you go.
Should definitely do that.
Good. All right. Thanks, everyone. Bye.
Bye-bye.